Madam Chair, members of the House Committee on Education, thank you for your time and consideration in hearing House Bill 3426. I grew up with a mother who recognized students ought to be taught with more customization for those students whose learning patterns or disabilities prevented them from excelling in standard education model. She started a school called West Valley Academy, which served K through 12 students with special teaching programs to help students reach their full potential. My wife Raina has worked for the Willamette ESD in both special education and ESL programs. I recently have been meeting with Dr. Rabbi Bruce Neal, former public school teacher from Bakersfield, California, and while listening to his experiences in the classroom and his aversion to the standardized testing system, I began to see clearly that many educators had the same concerns. After consulting teachers, I have seen the standardized testing routinely is the number 2 complaint right behind classroom size in the end-of-the-year teacher questionnaires. In my personal life, I work with analysis equipment and test frequently to measure their efficiencies. But people aren't just mechanical systems, and comprehension and critical thinking are not always reflected on the standardized test. Rote learning doesn't often stay in long-term memory banks, and students quickly forget subject matter after the test is over. I would rather we focus on establishing a system to enhance the student's ability on how to logically think through a subject matter instead of teaching students what to think about a particular subject matter. Teachers are facing shortened school years and fewer hours in the classroom. I hear their frustration that they are supposed to teach to a lesson plan, but that so much of their time is devoted to prepping for tests that much of the lesson plan remains untaught. So much pressure is placed upon performance of the test from well-intentioned superintendents who diligently try to raise their school district scores that teachers and students are pushed to extreme ends to meet the standards. Just recently, the former superintendent of Atlanta's public school was one of 35 district officials indicted on March 29th on charges that they participated in year-long conspiracies to cheat on federal standardized tests, both for personal financial gain and to demonstrate improvements in student achievement that did not actually exist. I have had great conversations with Rep. Frederick about this issue and he let our office borrow a copy of a documentary called The Finland Phenomenon. I was impressed with their educational achievements and consistent worldwide #1 ranking with their more conceptual-based applied knowledge. They have fewer lectures, less focus on standardized tests, and much more hands-on projects and experiments. Students have the same teacher from grades 1st through 5th grade to enhance the student-teacher relationship so an educator can adequately watch for teaching patterns, disabilities, and customized classroom teaching delivery methods. Finland also has a robust peer review system to help teachers improve their skills. Minnesota has implemented several such reforms, and I will continue to investigate into those reforms and explorate the best practices for a unique Oregon solution. I believe that allowing parents to opt their child out gives them greater freedom over their child's education. We know that standardized testing is not part of the necessary action required for acquiring federal matching dollars. Furthermore, the feds have never fulfilled their pledge to match 40 cents to our state dollars, and they have never reached above 17 cents. We know that not all students test the same, and that these tests don't often accurately display the skills of a particular class or teacher. While there may be good opportunities to evaluate our students through performance reviews with standardized testing, the repeated implementation of which has caused numerous classroom problems and takes away from the child's education. Teachers would rather use the time teaching the lesson plan, and ultimately students and districts will be evaluated by the success of their graduation rates. I'm happy to have this conversation, and I know that together we can address these issues and our children will be better off for it. And I am open to any questions on this whatsoever.
Thank you very much. Are there any brief questions for Representative Weidner before we pull up the others that have signed up to offer testimony on this bill? Representative Reardon.
We heard testimony on House Bill 2664. How do you know how these relate to each other? I can go do the homework if I need to.
Was that Representative Frederick's bill? Actually, Representative Frederick and I had not talked beforehand. I found out about his bill after I had put this bill in. This came from talking with teachers, superintendents in my districts. And in my district, I actually have some excellent schools. We have schools that are hitting the top of the benchmark in the state. McMinnville has been doing an excellent job. Superintendent Mary Alice Russell is recognized as one of the top 4 superintendents in the nation for hitting benchmarks with the testing. But the thing that I run into, because I still have children in the school system, is my kids aren't being taught to be creative thinkers. They're being taught to a test, and they become very bored in the classroom. They're just having to recite and regurgitate, and they become memorizers and not critical thinkers. And that's the reason this bill came about. And then I found out Representative Frederick's concerns with it. We sat down. That's where I saw the video that he had with Finland, and we both understand that this is an issue that needs to be addressed in our education system.
Thank you very much. And I kind of shared this with your staff when we talked about it in the office. I appreciate and share many of the concerns about how overburdened our schools and frankly our students are with testing. It kind of makes me sad every time my daughter comes home and talks to me about the test that she's taken that day, and knowing what her scores are and knowing what all of her other friends' scores are. I think it doesn't contribute to a high It creates problems, but I do have a significant problem with carving out students with disabilities from taking assessments. I think students with disabilities are very capable of achieving, and we should not treat one population of students differently than others.
Essentially, is what we're doing here is letting the parents decide, because there's lots of issues for different why a student might not need to take the test. So it's putting the power in the hands of the parents so they can make those decisions. Because one of the other things, and you'll probably see from me next session, is, the way we present materials. Because each student learns differently, yet we have teachers present it in one method time after time, rather than giving it to them visually, orally, and then somehow kinesthetically, we need to be giving it to them as well. So there's lots of different ways, but we need to start looking at how do we empower these teachers to present information in different ways to the students to get them to be critical thinkers and think for themselves.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Representative. Next we have